and welcome to Brunch with Books. Today we are discussing the Diary of Nobody by George and Weedon Grossmith, and the other timeless classic, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. And with these books, we have already discussed episode one. This is the continuation. So today we will be focusing more on what is actually happening with Porter and how he is giving us some messages from the book, which is even relevant in today's world. So, without wasting much time, let's deep dive into today's episode and understand that what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So, with this, over to you, Dr. Geeta.
Thank you, Sritapa. Hi, everyone. Here we are with the Diary of a Nobody, which is a delightful proof that ordinary life is anything but boring. So let's meet Charles Porter, a man who takes his minor inconveniences very seriously, records social embarrassments with dignity, and turns everyday mishaps into epic tragedies, at least in his own mind. Through his diary entries, we are invited to laugh at overblown pride, social climbing, and the timeless human talent for making mountains out of molehills. Witty, warm, and charmingly awkward, the Diary of a Nobody reminds us that sometimes the funniest stories aren't about heroes or villains, but about people who are convinced they're far more important than they actually are. So, Mr. and Mrs. Porter and their son Lupin are back home after a paid holiday by Porter's firm. Porter is anxious about Lupin not having a job. Despite their worries, the Porters invite a few people over for dinner. During the evening, the company plays a party game invented by Lupin himself. Everyone laughs heartily, but Porter is utterly puzzled. He cannot understand what is so amusing as they all stand in front of the looking glass playing a game called Let Us Play Monkeys. It's only later when he's preparing for bed that Porter discovers the reason for their laughter. A piece of paper is stuck to the button at the tail end of his coat. Realizing that he had been the object of ridicule without knowing it deeply embarrasses him. His troubles do not end there. Porter has repeated difficulties with his new neighbors, the children, who mock him by singing songs aimed at him, throw pellets at his fashionable tall hat, and fling bricks into his well-kept flower beds. All of this leaves him increasingly distressed. Adding to his agitation, Porter discovers that six pages from his diary has been torn out, and it is his very important diary. He is determined to find out who is responsible, but repeated questioning of his mates lands him in trouble with them. Just when matters seem unbearable, Lupin suddenly announces that he is engaged to be married. This revelation shocks and upsets Mr. and Mrs. Porter, as Lupin is still immature and jobless. At last, Mr. Porter manages to secure employment for his son. However, Lupin shows very little gratitude. Porter later meets Lupin's fiancée at a party thrown by them and are horrified to realize that she is at least 7 or 8 years older than Lupin. Now, Porter has also invited several distinguished people, including his employer, Mr. Perkup. However, even before these important guests arrive, Porter begins to worry that his neighbors, Mr. Going and Mr. Coming, and Lupin's fiance's visitors are consuming all the food. However, he remarks to Carrie that the guests seem to be eating as though they have not had a proper meal for a month. Suddenly, Porter turns around and is startled to find his employer, Mr. Perkup, standing halfway to the door. He has arrived quietly without anyone noticing. They escort Mr. Perkup downstairs only to discover that the refreshment table is completely wrecked. Not a single glass of champagne remains, not even a sandwich. Mr. Perkup politely says that he requires nothing more than a glass of seltzer or soda water, but even that is unavailable. Later, Porter confesses to his wife that his party is utter failure. He has never been so embarrassed in his life, even though his employer, Mr. Perkup, was very understanding about it. Porter records these misfortunes in his diary and broods about it endlessly. So, my question to your viewers: what does life seem repeatedly placing Porter in situations where he becomes the butt of the joke? Are his misfortunes because of his own lack of mindfulness? Or does society instinctively mock those who take appearances too seriously? I invite Dr. Siddharth to give his reflections on this question. Over to you, Dr. Siddharth.
Definitely, Dr. Geeta. There are so many people in the world who feel that appearances matter so much, and then, um, eventually they realize it doesn't. I have a completely similar kind of a example which I can talk about. There was a guy, my friend, in the corporate world. We used to work together, and he was a decent guy. He had like a well-shaven face, and he was gentle, kind, and everybody used to talk to him very normally. Someday, something got over him, and he started thinking that he's not getting the right importance in his life. And somehow he got to this thought that if he grows mustache, maybe he will get that right importance, like a man of the group of the team which we were leading. And he got all those uh, different kind of ointments and hair oils and whatever which are required to grow mustache. And the mustache he was thinking about was something which was like a bushy one. It took him like I think 3, 4, or 5 months, and finally one day he came with this great mustache of his own. He was saying, "Yes, now I am like that man who everybody would look at." And then we were looking at him and we said, "What a cartoon you have made of yourself." And that comment started like his biggest worry of the day. And then slowly and gradually, when he went to with us for a lunch and we were having food, and the food was getting stuck on his mustache. So he became bigger ridicule. He became such a humor to talk to, and we all laughed at him. Even the juniors who were there, they laughed at him sidewise. So eventually, at the end of the day, and he was when he had started the day, he was like, "Today I'll gain so much recognition in the team." By the end of the day, he had lost all of his recognition. So that is what had happened to him. And I feel this example is exactly fitting this Bhutter's example, which you are talking about, the appearance of being so, making yourself so dignified, but then you are losing importance from your team. Everybody is joking at you. The coming and going are making fool of him. And there is so much going on. So that is why was my example and real life example, which fits exactly in this situation. Over to you, Shitapa.
Thank you, Siddharth. And I'm still laughing. So hilarious. Oh my God, a mustache. I think many people can relate to this story and can understand that, yes, what is required, what can be relevant, and what one has to think and let go. So with this, I would like to add one of my funny examples. Like we know, when it comes to parties and all, girls wear high heels to look more beautiful and more taller and smart and elegant, and all these things come up with their short dresses. And uh, so I saw someone who was wearing a big heel, and she was not able to carry herself in those heels, so she was actually limping and walking in the heels. And uh, while walking in the middle of the party, her heel breaks. So it becomes even more awkward now that she was not able to manage the sandals, and now the heel broken. With that, more like now she has to take off the shoes and stand. So she's totally in no height. Rather than expecting her to look tall, she's now without heels, flat on foot. So it was an embarrassing moment, definitely. But then if she would have actually worn something comfortable, would have lasted longer and would have made look more elegant, and this situation wouldn't have occurred, I think. So just to uh, because people are wearing, just because people expect to wear something, it is forcefully we should not adapt or accept something which is in trend, like in trend things. may go with you, may not go with you. So just be mindful of what you want to accept from the trend and what will you want to let go, because can everything cannot be a part of you. So I will like to stop there with that thought to my audience and pass it on to Sujata for more conversation on this.
Thank you, Shrikapa. What you said about dressing up to look trendy is so common these days. And it sometimes leads to unnecessary worry. And that's what Carnegie and he talks about. And we see it in Porter, the emotional and the physical cost of worry. And now the story isn't subtle, so subtle. It is about the fatigue that worry creates. Carnegie has a whole section on this. He says a lot of our tiredness isn't from work, it's from emotional tension. And Porter, he is a coil of tension. He does not take care of the logistics, food for the party he throws for his son and fiancée. This becomes so embarrassing. And it's a master class in bad delegation. Carnegie would say Porter needed to get the facts, make a decision, and that passive fretting exhausting. In chapter 23, Carnegie says, take rest before you get tired, like Dr. John D. Rockefeller's famous office naps. Porter is emotionally exhausted because he never creates a day-tight compartment from the chaos. It leaves him so tense that Porter can't relax. For this, Carnegie's famous advice is to relax your body. He says, let your muscles go as limp as an old sock. Porter would have spent that entire evening sitting stiffly, worrying about the conversation that wasn't happening. And it all culminates in the disaster at the party. Here, Porter loses control, he drinks too much, gets up to a pounding head. And for this specific deep regret, Carnegie has blunt medicine. He says in his chapter on insomnia that the worry about the thing is far more harmful than the thing itself. No one died from a single embarrassing night, but Porter will worry himself sick over it for weeks. So Carnegie's advice, don't try to saw sawdust. The night is over, you can't change it. Get busy and put it out of the mind. So our takeaway this round is seeing the vicious cycle. Worry creates mental fatigue, and fatigue leads to poor judgment, and poor judgment creates disasters that are genuinely worthy of worry. Carnegie breaks the cycle with practical hygiene. Manage problems decisively, practice conscious relaxation, and cut the cord with past blunders. Porter, our beloved hero, is stuck in the spin cycle, showing us exactly why we need to step out of the machine. So now, Jasveer, I would love to hear what you have to add on to this. So over to you, Jasveer, for your perspective.
Thank you, Sujata. So, what I understand is this problem of constant worry and trying to predict something which may not happen and keep analyzing it is a very common feature with people who are either control freaks or they're perfectionists. So a very big example is of a parent who is an engineer himself, and he believes that his child will do very well in engineering. And I'm specifically saying engineering because here in India, the the kind of pressure and the kind of mindset that we have is that only if a person is pursuing science, they will succeed. Though now things have opened out, mindsets have changed, but still there are certain parents who think like that, and they literally force their children. And if the parent forces the child to take up science, while the child is an amazing orator, is wonderful at his or her diction, and wants to pursue acting as a career, and there is a lot of opportunity and a lot of scope in that, but the parent is insisting, worrying that no, this is not going to be a very beneficial future for you because you're going to take up something which we are not sure about because of the fear of the future, and you force the child to take something that the child is not willing to. And then it's a constant worry because the child is just learning by rote, and mugging up things and not doing things out of will and free will and happiness. And then, the results will be very mediocre, and almost 5 years of the life of a youngster who could have achieved much more in that particular time are gone because of the certain worry of the future, that if this particular, as in this individual, takes up something in the creative field, will he or she not make it? The unnecessary worry of the parent then lands up creating an individual who's not doing it out of passion, is doing it out of compulsion, and is also completely stressed because of the stress which has passed on. And in the end, what happens? Finally, that engineer quits his corporate job and does what he or she wants to do, which will be in the field of acting. But that individual has lost almost 5 years of their youth, which are the prime years when you want to make your career and future. And all this just because one person had a constant worry in their head, which led this youngster to forcefully follow something which was not what they wanted to do. So the simple thing is, think correctly, not out of compulsion. Things are not your, nothing is constant and permanent. So that's exactly the lesson that we all should learn from here, that worry is not going to create the future, but correct planning, correct delegation, and, calm mind thinking is what will help us. This is my take on these two books. Thank you, and I'd hand over to Dr. Geeta to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasbir. Your example is spot on and is so relatable. People who are worrywarts or perfectionists who overthink make their life miserable, and if they are parents, their children's life miserable. What is really needed is proper planning and proper delegation and, proper thinking through what needs to be done. And, relatable to Mr. Porter too. So Mr. Porter is now feeling very miserable after the party. He hadn't thought through what needs to be done. But now, during the night, he wakes up repeatedly with an unbearable thirst and keeps dreaming of the mishap of the party. In his dream, hordes of uninvited and rather vulgar people arrive, eat everything in sight, and even begin throwing food at his employer, Mr. Perkup. Matters become so disastrous in his dream that Pooter is forced to hide his boss in the box room with a bath towel over him for protection. When Pooter wakes up, the dream seems absurd. Yet while he was dreaming, it felt painfully real. Worse still, the same dream repeats itself dozens of times throughout the night. How crazy it is. But both he and Carrie decide that society life is not meant for them. They decline an invitation to attend another illustrious Mr. Bird's wedding. Lupin surprisingly agrees, remarking that it is not necessary to attend every social function and adding that the wedding would probably be a dull affair anyway. Now, that night after the party, there is that blancmange, a sweet pudding that is left over from the party, and it is there on the supper table. At breakfast, too, the blancmange reappears. Putta firmly instructs the servant, please do not bring it to the table again. Putta thinks that it seems to make an appearance at every single meal. And sure enough, at supper it appears, and again it is appearing in the morning, and this time it is cleverly disguised in a glass dish surrounded by jam. Later, in the privacy of his bedroom, Pooter tells his wife Carrie that if the blancmange is placed on the table again, he will walk out of the house and out of their marriage altogether. Pooter has now this disagreement with Carrie, and during which his neighbor going walks in, lingers nearby, listens, and passes unsolicited remarks about charity and good deeds. Pooter feels increasingly irritated not only by the neighbor's constant intrusion but by his growing sense that he is no longer master in his own house. One morning, Pooter opens his scribbling diary and gets into a retrospective mood. And he reflects on the past few weeks, but neither Carrie nor Lupin shows any interest in his diary. He confesses that he had hoped that, should anything happen to him, the diary would be an endless source of pleasure to them both, quite apart from the fame and remuneration that might result from its publication. At this, both Carrie and Lupin burst out laughing. Puta feels that nobody realizes his worth and his talent. Now, my question to you, viewers, why does Mr. Putter's sincere desire for good life, dignity, and meaning repeatedly turn into comedy? And what does this suggest about how easily everyday life mocks those who take themselves just a little too seriously? What are your reflections on this, Dr. Siddharth? Can you share it with us? Over to you,
Yeah,
Dr.
that's
Siddharth.
that's an amazing point, Dr. Gita. Uh, I was laughing with all the incidents which you have been sharing. So, this particular part where we give a lot of importance to ourselves is something which is where we need to think about how much important are we, right? So, at the end of the day, is that the carrying of ourselves is more uh, the thing which we want to create as an importance, or the information or the knowledge we have is the more important one. I think that is where the key differentiation is. And like I was telling about this example of my friend who had grown a mustache, there was another guy who was actually, uh, you know, hell-bound on getting a lot of certifications done. And this was something, I think this is something which is very common in corporate. You kind of keep getting certifications. And you have like multiple of certifications done, and then you think that now I'll get a raise. Now I will get a raise, and now I will get a raise, and that doesn't happen at all because those certifications are all like these theoretical information you are getting, and you never are able to apply them on a practical ground. So that is exactly you are trying to create a worth based on maybe some kind of theory or some kind of knowledge which doesn't even apply on the practical ground. And that is actually what has happened to our education system also. We have been so much trained to look at education like that that we think that somebody having lot of educational background will be doing great when on the field, but on the field things completely change, and that is an everyday example which I keep observing, right? So I feel it's important that we understand the importance of information and how we actually apply it, rather than just keeping that information and feeling that this information I have and I'm going to be like that most important person in the room. I feel that is how I link this example. Over to you, Shitapa, for your insight.
Yeah, absolutely. And another insightful conversation, which is very relatable. Being from IT world, I can relate absolutely with you that yes, how some people run after certifications without understanding that practical knowledge is equally important to get to some next level. Yes, I will like to add to one of the incidents here is like you've seen some people who come too prepared for any casual catch ups, and we have a get together like that, and someone was so prepared, like giving introduction of what the person does, and their designation, their all the achievements in life, etc., and everything. It was a casual setup of tea and coffee and a conversation over coffee, where a normal introduction and just more on what is happening in and around in the firm, and that kind of a conversation was expected. But this person was so well prepared with their self introduction that someone stopped in between and asked, do you want tea or coffee? So he was lost in the introduction, and then it was cut through for a tea or coffee, just to remind that the conversation needs to go somewhere else, and it is taken too formally for a coffee catch up. so so some people need that check to realize what the event looks like, and no need for over preparation. Always at times it is good to understand what people are interested, who are around us, and what kind of conversation will go along. uh, so with this thought, I felt that this is also relatable, because we do take things or ourselves very seriously, like Dr. Gita just was explaining that and become fool in front of society, and in any occasion, like Puter himself was feeling in the party, like this will happen, that will happen, and it happened. And as it happened, the other person took it normally, like okay, in party things may go short, and he was okay. But Puter, being his party, was overconscious and took everything on himself. And this is what we even do ourselves in our lives. When we host any party, or when we host to an event, we think that everyone is looking at us, everyone is thinking about us, but people are actually lost in their own conversation, and they are not noticing you that much as much you are thinking. So, with that, as I will hand it over to Sujata for continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Shritapa. That incident, what you just cited, was so relatable. We all have our social anxieties, and that's what Carnegie he says. And when we map the two books, we see that as we move deeper in Puter's family drama, we realize that it isn't just social anxiety anymore. For Puter, it is a full-blown crisis of respectability and control. So Carnegie's advice this week is move from basic tactics to something deeper, a philosophy for handling the things we cannot change. Puter is humiliated because he tried to step outside himself to be someone modern and it backfired. For this, Carnegie has a vital rule. Find yourself and be yourself. He wants that imitation leads to disaster, misery. The moment Puter tries to be a man about town, he becomes a walking, absurd figure. He should have listened to Carnegie. You are something new in the world. Be glad of it. Carnegie would say that Puter is fighting the inevitable. Lupin is his own person with his own flawed judgment. So Carnegie's key chapter here is cooperate with the inevitable. He quotes the Serenity Prayer to accept the things we cannot change. Puter is expending all his energy trying to change things he can't. He's like a man shaking his fist at the rain. It's exhausting him. Carnegie cites Marcus Aurelius. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Puter thinks of himself as a disrespected failure. His life feels like one. He reads the story of the man on the train who survived a cave in and chose to see every day as a gift. And through this all, Puter is simmering with resentment. He's keeping a mental tally of Lupin's wrongs. For that poison, Carnegie has a stark chapter, the high cost of getting even. Hatred, he says, hurts the hater more. Puter has to decide, is this a war with his son, or can he find a way to peace? So our takeaway this round is that when life gives you a rebellious son and a ridiculous suit, what do you say? Carnegie's advice is to stop fighting, accept what is, and return to the solid ground of your own character. Puja's turmoil is the direct cost of refusing to do that. Thank you. Now, over to you, Jasbir, for your takeaway on this. What do you have to add on it? Would love to hear it.
Thank you, Sujata. So, what I understand from what Carnegie is trying to teach us is that we are nothing but a product of our thoughts, you know, and our thoughts can actually make or break our lives. I would like to narrate one story about this prisoner who was actually going to be declared. He was convicted, and he was given the death penalty and the punishment of death. Now, what happened is the psychologist decided that anyways this particular prisoner is going to die. Let's try an experiment on him. We will realize what human nature is if we try this experiment. We can study him as particular case study. So what they did is they said that we are not going to kill you by getting hanged, but uh, we are going to try another way of killing you, as in ending your life. The punishment will be decided tomorrow. And the whole night he was worried and, really anxious, and he was scared that what is going to happen and all. And the next morning he was told that a snake, a very poisonous snake, will be left in his cell and he will die of snake bite. Now, what they did is they put a, they closed his eyes. They said it'll be very difficult for you to actually witness that dangerous and scary snake. And if he, looking at it, you might faint, and it won't be something that you will be able to tolerate. So, we're going to blindfold you, and you just wait, and I'm sure it will not be such a painful death. I'm sure you can manage. And what they did is they blindfolded him. They did not put any deadly snake or any cobra in that cell. They just put a rope there, and his leg touched the rope, and the prisoner thought that it is actually a snake. And the next morning, when the guards came, he was dead. He was dead only with a simple thing, that he worried himself to death. He actually worried himself to death. It was his own thoughts that made him believe that a piece of rope was a snake, and he was actually going to die because of snake bite. Because there was no bite on his body, nothing. But the next morning, when the doctor checked, they realized his body had become blue. And it was not because of a snake bite, because there was no deadly snake there. It was only because of his thought process that he believed he's going to die, and he actually died. So this is exactly what worry does. It kills you before the death appears. So that's my take on this. And I now hand it over to Shritapa to conclude today's session. Thank you.
Very well said, Jaspreet. That worry is it creates mental fatigue, and we need to practice conscious relaxation. Otherwise, it can cause a lot of damage. So it's all about overthinking. It's all about how you take things, and let's not be more perfect and too strict on ourselves. Just relax and take things normally, rather than being over conscious on how things will go in life. So with this, I would like to conclude our today's episode. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Hope you laughed with us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe Brunch with Books and YouTube channel. So see you on Thursday 5 p.m. again. Bye bye, tata, take care.